OUS egregious adjective के extreme bad in a way that's very noticeable. It was an egregious error for a statesman to show such ignorance. Synonyms: flagrant, glaring, gross, egregious, of something bad, extreme, beyond any reasonable degree. Egregious errors of fact, an egregious example of misrepresentation. Examples of egregious. Egregious. If they didn't, then the decision its substance aside can be seen as illegitimate with respect to those millions of citizens in a rather egregious way. Were there particular instances or examples of politicizing science that you felt were most striking or egregious? But it is unfortunate that the very last sentence is marred by an egregious slip. In this infant, both coronary arteries lacked their normal proximal connection with the aorta, perhaps the most egregious form of this prejudicial coronary circulation. The second example is more egregious because it involves a clear misconstrual. A more egregious misrepresentation involves the issue of content versus process. Now we resort to policing from outside agencies only to push a few egregious violations. Both of these were egregious misrepresentations of what had happened, and both were political nightmares. It is an egregious mistake, however, to think that it is such openness that accounts for dominance. While public sector size in general may not be associated with corruption, egregious forms of state intervention are another matter. Thus, theft by public officials is probably the most egregious, and in this sense, the most classic instance of government corruption. One of the most egregious but by no means unique examples is the duplication of extensive block quotations and commentary on page 1079 and 23536. The bypassing of history is especially egregious, as there are so many possibilities nowadays for fertile collaboration among historians and anthropologists. The result has been sometimes an egregious overestimate of abatement costs, their emphasis. Some of the most egregious violations of liberty involve not the intent to punish, but rather the paternalistic intent to help. Oh,